Welcome to Cookery's Holiday Cooking Videos. I'm Chef Jessica Roberts, and I'm a culinary instructor at Cookery. And over the past few weeks, I've been bringing you some of my family favorites, things that we make in the Roberts family over the holidays. We started a few weeks ago with soft ginger cookies, followed by my family's really traditional Christmas pudding. And last week we did some savory shortbread and some marinated olives. This week, side dishes, or a side dish in particular. We're going to do a gratin with one of my favorite holiday vegetables, and it really is a vegetable we serve at my house every single year. It is the rutabaga, and a lot of people call it a turnip, but it is not a turnip. It is a rutabaga, and in England they do call it a swede. So if you see a recipe sometime calling for swede, it's just a rutabaga. It is a very polarizing vegetable. Normally people just boil it and eat it, maybe with some butter, but there's ways to make it taste even better. And today we're going to make a beautiful gratin with just some really nice ingredients, something you can make ahead earlier in the day, and your family, I think, is really going to love it. In our gratin today, we've got our rutabaga, and we've got a little cheese. I'm using some Emmental today, but Gruyere is what is called for in the recipe. Both are quite interchangeable. I've got some prosciutto that I've chopped up sort of into some small squares. Now the prosciutto is going in the breadcrumb topping, so if you want to avoid it to make the dish vegetarian or you don't eat pork, feel free to just leave it out. I've got a clove of garlic smashed up with a little bit of salt. I've got some thyme. So you could use about half a teaspoon of dry thyme or 2 teaspoons of fresh, whatever you've got on hand. I've got some fresh breadcrumbs. I just simply sort of pulled them apart, a couple slices of bread to make about 3/4 of a cup. They don't have to be too fine, but they do need to be fresh. I've got a little bit of butter, some whipping cream, and salt and pepper. So I'm just going to break down my rutabaga, and then the rest is pretty simple to put together. So I'm simply going to slice off the top and the bottom of the rutabaga, and then I can just give it a simple sort of peel with my knife. So the rutabaga always has a wax coating on it that you need to remove, and that wax coating is there to help preserve the vegetable to make it last longer on the shelf. I've got my rutabaga peeled here. I'm going to cut it in half. Be very careful because it's a very dense vegetable. And then all I need to do is make some nice thin slices about 1/8 of an inch thick. Feel free, if you don't want to use a knife, a mandolin comes in handy here and makes the job a little easier. I've got my rutabaga sliced, and now I'm going to cook it for about 6 minutes until tender in a big pot of well-salted boiling water. After it has cooked and the slices are tender, I'm going to drain it well and spread the slices out on a cookie sheet to allow the slices to cool down before I assemble the gratin. While the rutabaga is boiling for about 6 minutes, I'm going to make the breadcrumb topping. To do that, I take some of the butter and I'm going to melt that. And when it's melted, I'm going to add my prosciutto and cook it for about 2 minutes until it's a little bit crisp. At that point, I'm going to stir in my garlic and my breadcrumbs and just remove the pan from the heat until ready to use. Now it's time to assemble the gratin. So in a buttered gratin dish, I have layered about 1/3 of the rutabaga slices. I'm going to give a little bit of seasoning here, a 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme, just a little bit over top here. You can certainly use fresh. A little salt, nice and even, and some freshly ground pepper. Going to add about half of the cheese. And then I'm going to repeat with another layer of rutabaga, layer my seasonings and cheese again, and finish off with a final layer of rutabaga. My gratin is assembled. I've got my 3 layers of rutabaga that I have put cheese and the dried thyme and the salt and pepper in between. And at this point, you can refrigerate this for 2 hours and then finish off later for your meal. Otherwise, you're going to take 1 cup of whipping cream and bring it to a simmer. Just warm it up and carefully pour evenly over the top of your gratin. So all of the layers are nice and covered. Got our cream on there. And now we're just going to finish it with our prosciutto breadcrumb topping, a nice even layer on top. And then when this is done, it's going to go in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 to 30 minutes until hot and the rutabaga is cooked through and it's nice and bubbling. My gratin is done. It's beautiful golden brown on top. I can smell the prosciutto. It just looks so yummy. Again, just let it rest for 10 minutes before serving, and then enjoy a new tradition of rutabaga with your family every holiday season. Happy holidays.